A country covering more than 238,000 square kilometers in southeastern Europe, connecting the Balkans with Central Europe, where the terrain shifts clearly between the Carpathian Mountains rising above 2,000 meters, plateaus, and wide plains. From the Roman province of Dacia nearly 2,000 years ago, this land developed into medieval principalities, leaving behind stone castles, old towns, and large mountain routes. While many traditional villages still preserve their structure and rhythm of life across centuries, the appeal comes from the blend of heritage and natural space, where layers of architecture and history exist side by side within the same journey of movement. Welcome to Romania. Brasov. Located in the Transylvania region in central Romania, Brasov is a historic city set at the foot of the Carpathian Mountains. The city was first recorded in the year 1211 when the Teutonic Knights built the first defensive line. Today, the center still preserves its old square, Saxon rooftops, and the town hall dating back to the 15th century. The most prominent landmark is the Black Church, the largest Gothic structure in southeastern Europe, nearly 90 meters long and home to 119 valuable Oriental carpets. Surrounding Brasov are sections of defensive walls, watchtowers, and ancient gates that once protected the city throughout the medieval era. From the cable car station, visitors can reach Mount Temper at around 960 meters to view the red rooftops spread across the green valley. Brasov also comes alive during the Brasovali festival, where riders in traditional costumes parade through the streets, helping preserve local culture while attracting tourism. The city is also home to Strada's Fori, only about 111 centimeters wide, one of the narrowest streets in Europe. Leaving behind the old squares and red rooftops in the valley, the journey moves toward a historical boundary to explore a fortress tied to some of the most mysterious legends of Transylvania. Bran Castle. Set along the historical border between Transylvania and Wallachia, Bran Castle was built in the year 1377 under the order of King Ludovic I to control trade routes crossing the Carpathian Mountains. Served for centuries, it served military, defensive, and taxation roles at a key gateway, linking central Romania with the southern region. Its defining feature lies in its medieval defensive structure, with thick stone walls, tall watchtowers, enclosed courtyards, and narrow staircases connecting multiple levels. Inside are dozens of interconnected small rooms, displaying ancient weapons, armor, handcrafted furniture, and artifacts reflecting noble life across different periods. The castle's value goes beyond architecture, shaped by layers of history over time. In the early 20th century, Queen Marie transformed Bran into a royal residence with a more refined interior, turning a rigid fortress into a space marked by cultural and royal lifestyle elements. During the Halloween period at the end of October, the castle hosts themed programs that attract large numbers of visitors, generating strong local revenue while expanding Transylvania's global tourism presence. Leaving behind the legends of a cliffside castle, the journey now moves back in time to a fortified stronghold that once sheltered residents from ancient invasions. Rasnov Fortress. From a limestone hill about 200 meters high overlooking the town below, Rasnov Fortress once controlled the strategic route linking Brasov with southern Romania for centuries. Built in the year 1211 by the Teutonic Knights, it later became a secure refuge for local residents during Tarta and Ottoman attacks. Its isolated position within the Transylvanian hills helped it withstand multiple waves of conflict. The complex is enclosed by stone walls nearly 5 meters high. Inside, there were once around 80 red roof houses, food storage areas, and small workshops, allowing residents to survive long sieges. And a narrow stone path leads up to the central courtyard, where a well-reaching 143 meters deep still remains. According to local legend, it took 17 years to dig through the solid rock, becoming a symbol of medieval endurance. From the watch points above, visitors can see the entire town of Rasnov, the wide fields of Transylvania, and the dark green Carpathian Mountains in the distance. From May to September offers the clearest views, when the sky opens up for dozens of kilometers. Standing on these walls, would you choose the vast mountains or the quiet town below? After taking in the view from the limestone hill, the journey continues toward a refined resort town hidden beneath towering mountain ridges. Sinaia. Set along the slopes of the Apuseni Mountains at nearly 800 meters, Sinaia began forming in the year 1695, when Sinaia Monastery was built. Stone walls, bell towers, and Byzantine domes laid the foundation for what would become the most famous resort town in the Prahova Valley. By the late 19th century, it became a summer retreat for the Romanian royal family. The most iconic landmark is Peles Castle, completed in the year 1883, whereby the structure features German-style spires, hand-carved wooden frames, European stained glass, and more than 160 luxurious rooms, considered one of the most beautiful castles in Eastern Europe. Surrounding the center are historic villas, traditional hotels, a royal train station, and quiet roads running through pine forests, creating an elegant resort atmosphere that still remains today. One of the most impressive experiences is taking the cable car up to the Busijit Plateau above 2,000 meters. From above, visitors see Sinaia surrounded by forests and a wide valley, where royal elegance blends with modern mountain tourism. Leaving behind the royal resort atmosphere, the journey continues along winding mountain roads, where the landscape shifts constantly with every turn. Transfagarasan Highway. Across the Fagaras Mountains, where Romania's highest peaks gather into a dense mountain massif, the Transfagarasan Highway is far more than a road. It is a cut carved directly through the Carpathians at elevations exceeding 2,000 meters. For its construction, much of southern Transylvania remained effectively separated by natural mountain barriers, and travel between regions depended almost entirely on long detours through lower valleys. When the highway opened during the 1970s under the rule of Nicolae Ceausescu, the Fagaras Range no longer served as an absolute barrier. Instead of avoiding the Carpathians, this route, stretching approximately 150 kilometers, follows the mountain structure Mansanggu itself, weaving through layers of rock, passing through tunnels, and constantly shifting elevation along steep slopes. The deeper the journey continues, the more the boundary between road and landscape begins to disappear. Pine forests at lower elevations quickly give way to exposed rock and open mountain slopes, before Lake Balea appears like a sheet of water, trapped between the peaks of the Fagaras Range. Movement along the highway no longer feels horizontal, but becomes a continuous ascent that clings to the shape of the mountains. When winter covers the Carpathians, the Transfagarasan almost vanishes from its usual form. Hairpin turns disappear beneath deep snow, the roadway blends into a white landscape, and Lake Balea freezes completely, transforming the entire area into a motionless terrain where the distinction between road and mountain becomes difficult to recognize. Beyond these roads pressed tightly against the mountainsides, the Carpathians begin to reveal a different world on the other side of the terrain, where the valleys of Transylvania are no longer so sharply divided, and ancient cities gradually emerge as stable points within a land once completely dominated by mountains. Sibiu. A city grew in the heart of Transylvania, where routes crossing the Carpathian Mountains formed a corridor connecting Central Europe and the Balkans as early as the 12th century. From this strategic position, the constant flow of trade transformed what was once a simple stopping point into a permanent settlement, where daily life became firmly anchored along the commercial routes. That movement gradually drew the area into a much larger network of exchange, and over time, the city developed through layers of structures built upon one another. Residential districts, commercial spaces, and religious centers expanded side by side, creating a dense, urban system shaped through successive periods of history. As the journey moves deeper into the historic center, the urban space narrows and a stone bridge appears as a connection between different parts of the city. From there, the view rises toward a tall observation tower, where the entire urban landscape unfolds through a sequence of squares, stone streets, and architectural layers formed across many centuries. Beyond this area, the surrounding landscape gradually shifts into rolling hills and forest covering the mountain slopes, where small settlements continue to appear along natural corridors, stretching southward through the Carpathian region. Sighisoara. Medieval walls still surround Sighisoara after more than 8 centuries in the heart of Transylvania. Established during the 12th century along the trade routes linking Central Europe and the Balkans, the city grew through commerce and its strategic position among the valleys of the Carpathian Mountains. Prosperity accumulated across generations, helped create a fortified settlement strong enough to withstand some of history's greatest upheavals. At the center of the old town, the clock tower rises 64 meters above the skyline as the city's most recognizable landmark. Once responsible for controlling the main gate and serving as the administrative center of Sighisoara, the tower became a symbol deeply connected to the city's history. At its summit, the mechanical clock and its collection of wooden figures representing the days of the week continue to operate to this day. Shades of yellow, blue, pink, and red cover the facades of the historic buildings surrounding the central square. Behind these vibrant colors lies a network of residential structures built between the 15th and 17th centuries, connected by narrow cobblestone streets and distinctive red-tiled roofs. The exceptional preservation of both its historical character and urban layout led to the old citadel being recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1999. The path leading to the church on the hill begins with more than 170 wooden steps inside the covered stairway. This Gothic structure, dating back to the 14th century, played an important role in the religious and educational life of the local community and reflects Sighisoara's significance throughout centuries of development. Leaving behind the cobblestone slopes and clock towers of Sighisoara, the landscape of Transylvania begins to open toward a much larger city. In Cluj-Napoca, layers of history from the medieval era, the Habsburg Empire, and modern Romania all come together within a single urban landscape. Cluj-Napoca. Along the valley of the Sumușulmec River, Cluj-Napoca developed at the center of Transylvania, where important routes once connected western Romania with the Carpathian region. Over the centuries, the city expanded continuously upon earlier settlements, becoming the largest urban center in the region and accumulating multiple layers of history within the heart of Transylvania. The clearest traces of that evolution remain visible around Piața Unirii, the largest square in the city. Historic buildings, administrative structures, and stone-paved streets continue to surround the central district, reflecting a process of development that stretches from the medieval period to the modern age. While many buildings have changed their functions over time, the historic urban framework remains remarkably intact. Among these architectural layers spanning centuries, St. Michael's Church stands out as the most significant Gothic structure in Cluj-Napoca. Construction began in the year 1350, and nearly 7 centuries later, it still dominates the city center. Surrounding the church are architectural influences from the Hungarian Kingdom, the Habsburg Empire, and modern Romania, creating one of the most distinctive historic districts in Transylvania. Unlike many ancient cities that developed within defensive walls, Cluj-Napoca continued to expand along new urban corridors filled with universities, theaters, and modern research centers. Alexandru Borza Botanical Garden, home to more than 10,000 plant species, emerged during this period of growth and became one of Romania's leading centers for botanical research. The farther the journey moves away from Cluj-Napoca, the more the traces of modern urban life begin to fade. Ahead rises the Apuseni Range, a vast limestone mountain region in western Romania, where enormous cave systems and isolated valleys extend deep into the heart of the Carpathians. Apuseni Mountains. Covering more than 15,000 square kilometers across western Transylvania, the Apuseni Mountains were formed upon one of Romania's largest limestone regions. Over millions of years, underground water continuously eroded the rock, creating a carved landscape filled with caves, underground rivers, sinkholes, and deep valleys spread throughout the mountain range. Much of this geological structure remains hidden beneath forests and plateaus, stretching across the surface of Apuseni. Within this vast cast network, Sighisoara Cave preserves an underground ice block that began forming more than 3,500 years ago. From the cave entrance on the mountainside, wooden stairways descend into chambers where temperatures remain close to 0 degrees Celsius for most of the year. Deep underground, thick layers of ice continue to survive among limestone formations and enormous cavern halls. Across plateaus situated at elevations of approximately 1,000 meters, small villages of the Motsi people appear among forests, meadows, and limestone slopes. Wooden houses with steep roofs, livestock shelters, and grazing fields are scattered across the terrain. Many of these communities remain connected by mountain roads, crossing the highlands of Apuseni. Millions of years of geological forces created the Apuseni Mountains, yet centuries of conflict shaped the great fortresses of Transylvania. Among them, Corvin Castle emerges as one of the largest and most impressive military structures in Romania. Corvin Castle. In the Hunedoara region of Transylvania, Corvin Castle was built during a period when Eastern Europe faced constant conflict between Christian kingdoms and the Ottoman Empire. Construction began in the year 1446 under John Hunyadi, a military commander who played a major role in the region's military history during the 15th century. Over time, the fortress evolved into one of the largest surviving medieval castles in Europe. Generations of expansion shaped the appearance of Corvin Castle as it stands today. The original Gothic structures were gradually complemented by Renaissance elements added during later construction phases. The wooden bridge crossing the deep moat, the defensive towers, and the grand halls remain among the most striking features inherited from the era of the Hunyadi family. Alongside its military history, Corvin Castle is also linked to stories that have circulated for centuries. One of the most famous involves Vlad III, the ruler of Wallachia often associated with the Dracula legend. Although historians continue to debate the details, the name of Vlad III frequently appears in discussions of Corvin Castle and the wider history of the region. Yet Corvin Castle reflects only part of Western Romania's past. Farther toward the Banat Plains, medieval fortresses gradually give way to Baroque squares, broad boulevards, and an entirely different urban landscape in Timișoara. Timișoara. Along the Bega River in western Romania, Timișoara developed where trade routes from Central Europe entered the Balkan region. After the Habsburg Empire gained control of the city in the year 1716, much of the old defensive system was dismantled, paving the way for a large-scale urban planning process that continued for centuries. From that foundation, Timișoara gradually developed a character distinct from much of Romania. Baroque and secession buildings appeared throughout the city center, while the street network expanded according to Central European urban design principles. Many traces of this period remain visible along the city's main streets today. Modernization accelerated throughout the 19th century. In the year 1884, Timișoara became the first city in continental Europe to introduce a large-scale public electric street lighting system. Advances in infrastructure and technology helped transform the city into one of the most modern urban centers in the region at that time. The skyline of Transylvania gradually gives way to the towering cliffs of Piatra Sibiu. Beneath this massive rock formation lies Remarkably, a settlement that has existed for centuries within an isolated valley of the Carpathian Mountains. Remarkably. Spread across a valley at the foot of Piatra Sibiu, Remarkably appears as a collection of white-roofed houses beneath one of Transylvania's most imposing limestone formations. The village was established during the 13th century, when local iron deposits turned the area into an important metallurgical center in the mountains of western Romania. In the year 1870, a devastating fire destroyed much of Remarkably. Reconstruction followed the original layout, resulting in more than 130 white-painted houses with green windows that still survive today. The village has preserved an exceptional level of architectural consistency, remaining largely unchanged through generations. Above the rooftops rises the long stone wall of Piatra Sibiu, dominating the entire valley landscape. This mountain not only shapes the scenery, but also creates Remeteir's most famous phenomenon. During certain times of the year, sunlight first appears on the summit before gradually reaching the village below, creating what is often described as the sunrise twice phenomenon. Beyond the white houses of Rumetia, the scale of Romania changes dramatically. Mountain valleys and limestone ridges give way to Bucharest, where vast boulevards and monumental government buildings spread across the heart of the capital. Bucharest. At the center of Bucharest, the Palace of the Parliament covers approximately 365,000 square meters, placing it among the largest administrative buildings in the world. Construction began in the year 1984 under Nicolae Ceausescu as part of the largest urban redevelopment program in modern Romanian history. Thousands of homes, numerous churches, historic streets, and entire residential districts were removed to make way for this enormous project. These changes reshaped Bucharest on an unprecedented scale. Wide boulevards cut through the city center, while massive squares emerged among monumental structures, creating one of the most imposing urban landscapes in Eastern Europe. Even today, the legacy of that construction era continues to define much of the capital's central district. Yet behind those grand avenues and colossal buildings lies a much older layer of history. Before becoming the capital of Romania in the year 1862, Bucharest had developed along the Dâmbovița River as the center of Wallachia. Through centuries of growth, the city gradually became the nation's political, economic, and administrative heart. But Romania is not defined by its cities alone. As the Danube approaches the end of its journey of more than 2,800 kilometers across Europe, the river begins to split into hundreds of waterways, forming the Danube Delta, the largest wetland region on the continent. Danube Delta. At the Danube Delta, one of Europe's largest rivers does not simply end at the sea. Instead, it breaks apart into hundreds of waterways, covering Romania's easternmost region with a maze of rivers, lakes, and wetlands so vast that many areas can only be fully understood from the air. This network of channels extends for approximately 5,800 kilometers, creating the largest wetland system in Europe. For thousands of years, the Danube has carried sediment from deep within the continent toward the Black Sea. Layer after layer of mud and sand continues to accumulate, expanding the delta and creating a landscape that constantly shifts between land and water. Entire sections emerge and disappear over time, making the Danube Delta one of the few places in Europe where large-scale natural land formation is still actively taking place. Within this maze of waterways, reed beds reaching heights of up to 4 meters cover vast areas, while more than 300 bird species and approximately 45 freshwater fish species inhabit an ecosystem recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1991. Flocks of pelicans, cormorants, and countless migratory birds gather along shallow lakes, stretching toward the horizon. Beyond the immense wetlands of the Danube Delta, Romania's landscape changes almost completely. Rivers and marshes gradually give way to the towering massifs of the Carpathians, where Vidraru Dam blocks the Arges River between steep rock walls. Vidraru Lake. More than 465 million cubic meters of water are held between the mountain walls of the Carpathians, forming Vidraru, a vast reservoir created after the completion of Vidraru Dam in the year 1966. Rising approximately 166 meters high, the structure blocks the Arges River within one of Romania's most rugged mountain regions, transforming a deep valley into a long stretch of water surrounded by sheer cliffs. From above, Vidraru appears as a massive ribbon of water extending deep into the heart of the Carpathians. Mountain ridges descend directly toward the shoreline, while forested slopes cover the entire horizon. The winding shape of the valley creates shorelines stretching for dozens of kilometers, causing the water to disappear and reappear between overlapping layers of mountains. Few places in Romania illustrate the contrast between engineering and nature as clearly as Vidraru. On one side stands a colossal concrete wall built during the 20th century. On the other rise the Carpathian Mountains, shaped over millions of years of geological history. Together they occupy the same landscape, creating one of the most striking scenes in the country. Rupea Fortress, a basalt hill rising above the plains of Transylvania, became the natural foundation of Rupea Fortress in the year 1324, when Saxon settlers began constructing a stronghold directly along the slopes of the hill. From several kilometers away, its stone walls can still be seen, standing prominently above the surrounding plains of eastern Romania. As the fortress draws closer, its layered defensive design becomes increasingly visible along the elevation of the basalt hill. 3 concentric rings of walls are connected by narrow passages and curved gateways that constantly alter the direction of movement before reaching the central section. Disembark. Beneath the basalt lies a well approximately 60 meters deep, once essential for maintaining water supplies whenever the fortress became isolated. Walking through Rupea Fortress is a gradual climb through successive layers of stone walls, narrow stairways, and thick corridors that unfold at different elevations. From the highest section, the entire Transylvanian plain spreads out below, along with the historic routes that connected in Transylvania and Wallachia for centuries. Yet beneath these defensive stones of Transylvania, Romania's landscape continues to reveal another world entirely, where enormous salt chambers emerge deep underground after centuries of continuous extraction. Turda Gorge. The Hușdata River spent millions of years cutting through Jurassic limestone on the eastern edge of the Apuseni Mountains, creating a gorge that stretches for 1,270 meters, with sections of cliff rising nearly 300 meters above the valley floor. The deeper the route enters the canyon, the narrower the space between the rock walls becomes. Sunlight is reduced to thin shafts reaching the bottom of the gorge, while temperatures drop by approximately 5 degrees Celsius as the limestone retains cool air and shadows dominate much of the day. Along these towering cliffs, natural cost processes have created more than 60 caves of various sizes at different elevations. Vegetation clings to the vertical rock faces, forming an ecosystem that feels almost completely isolated from the outside world. More than 1,000 plant species have been recorded within the gorge, along with numerous birds of prey that nest on cliff faces that are nearly impossible to reach. The Harstati River continues winding through the bottom of the canyon, while suspension bridges span its narrowest sections, creating a constant sense of changing space. During the dry season, water levels fall and reveal layers of pale river stones below, making the distance from the bridges to the river appear far deeper and more dramatic. Since the year 1938, Turda Gorge has been protected as a nature reserve, making it one of the earliest protected landscapes in Romania. Beyond the canyon, the scenery gradually rises toward peaks exceeding 2,000 meters, glacial lakes, and vast forests stretching across the Carpathian Mountains. Alba Iulia. Across the plains of western Transylvania, Alba Carolina spreads outward through a 7-pointed star fortress built between the years 1711 and 1738, according to the Vauban style of military architecture. Layers of walls, deep moats, and tiered fortifications extend for approximately 12 kilometers around the historic center, forming one of the largest Habsburg defensive systems in Eastern Europe. Passing through Baroque gates decorated with relief sculptures commissioned by Emperor Charles VI, the interior of the fortress opens into long, straight avenues stretching across the former military complex. Every part of the layout was designed to control movement and allow rapid deployment between the different defensive layers of Alba Carolina. At the very heart of the fortress, two buildings from completely different eras stand almost side by side. St. Michael's Cathedral, constructed during the 13th century, features thick stone walls, narrow windows, and the heavy Romanesque character of the medieval period. Nearby stands the Coronation Cathedral, completed in the year 1922 in the Romanian Byzantine style, where Ferdinand I and Queen Marie were crowned, following the unification of Romania in the year 1918. Beneath the Habsburg fortress, remnants of the Roman castrum Apulum still appear throughout Alba Iulia. Military structures from the Roman era, the Middle Ages, and the Habsburg period continue to overlap within the same space, representing nearly 2,000 years of Transylvanian history. Yet farther east across Transylvania, the terrain gradually softens into rolling hills and open meadows, where small Saxon villages still preserve settlement patterns that have remained largely unchanged since medieval times. Gura Humorului. At the meeting point of the Moldova and Humor rivers in the Bucovina region of northern Romania, Gura Humorului began developing during the late 15th century as an important control point along routes crossing the Carpathians, with the river valleys and forested hills of Bucovina gradually turned the settlement into a gateway leading toward the monastery region of northern Romania for centuries. From the town, roads continue toward the famous painted monasteries of Bucovina. Humor Monastery, completed in the year 1530, still preserves much of its Byzantine fresco system, covering the exterior walls. Its distinctive red pigments, created from natural materials, were applied directly onto wet plaster and have survived despite the harsh climate of the Carpathian region. The paintings extend from the base of the walls to the roofline, depicting religious scenes and episodes from Byzantine history through the distinctive artistic traditions of medieval Moldavia. UNESCO recognized the Bucovina monasteries in the year 1993, and Humor remains one of the few sites where the original outdoor frescoes survive almost completely intact. Throughout the valleys of Bucovina, traditional wool weaving, wood carving, and Easter egg decoration using wax-resist batik techniques continue to survive in many villages across northern Romania. Geometric patterns and ancient symbols have been preserved through generations within the Bucovina region. From the forested valleys of Bucovina, Romania's landscape rises once again toward mountain passes exceeding 2,000 meters, where Lake Balea appears among rock and snow that linger through much of the year in the Transfagarasan Mountains. Balea Lake. High in the Transfagarasan Mountains at an elevation of 2,034 meters, Lake Balea was formed thousands of years ago when glaciers carved deep into the bedrock, creating a closed basin surrounded by steep mountain slopes. It remains one of the highest glacial lakes in Romania, where temperatures below 0 degrees Celsius persist for much of the year. The Transfagarasan Highway, completed in the year 1974, cut through the Fagaras Range using more than 6,000 tons of explosives. The road winds continuously along the mountainsides before reaching the area surrounding Lake Balea. As the route climbs higher through the pass, rocky valleys and glacial basins begin to emerge directly within the high-altitude landscape of the Romanian Carpathians. These prolonged freezing conditions cause the lake to become completely covered in ice for several consecutive months each winter. Since the year 2005, an ice hotel has been rebuilt annually using blocks of ice cut directly from the frozen lake. The structure maintains temperatures of approximately -2 degrees Celsius before melting entirely during summer and being constructed again at the end of each year. From the glacial landscapes and high mountain passes of the Făgăraș Range, the journey gradually descends through the valleys of eastern Romania, where rock and snow disappear behind the broad forests of Moldavia, before Piatra Neamț emerges along the Bistrița River, among the lower mountains of the Carpathians. Peles Castle. Construction began in the year 1873 under King Carol I in the town of Sinaia, within the Carpathian Mountains. The castle reflects a period when Romania increasingly embraced Western European royal architecture during the late 19th century. Completed in the year 1883, the residence contains more than 160 rooms and incorporates stone, German oak, and Murano stained glass in a blend of Neo-Renaissance and Gothic Revival styles. Its pointed towers, steep roofs, and wooden galleries create a character distinctly different from many other Eastern European castles of the same era. The three-story Hall of Honor is among the most recognizable spaces within the castle. It features intricately carved wooden ceilings and a collection of more than 4,000 European and Ottoman weapons alongside 5th-10th century armor. Other rooms, including the Royal Library, the Music Hall, and the Grand Wooden Staircase, provide a series of visually distinctive interiors that make the castle particularly memorable to explore. The route of approximately 120 kilometers between Bucharest and Sinaia helped transform the area into a popular mountain resort destination from the early 20th century onward. Local festivals and traditions have continued to support long-established crafts while also contributing to tourism and providing a stable source of income for communities surrounding the castle. Amid mist-covered mountain peaks and cold alpine landscapes, Romania reveals an entirely different identity, one shaped by the elegance and grandeur of European royal heritage. Cheile Bicazului. Located along the route connecting Neamț and Harghita counties in northeastern Romania, Cheile Bicazului extends for approximately 8 kilometers through the eastern Carpathians. It is one of Romania's most famous gorges, where limestone cliffs rising more than 300 meters tower above the narrow Bicaz River below. The landscape was shaped through millions of years of geological erosion, creating a karst environment filled with deep ravines, vertical rock walls, and numerous natural caves. Tourism in Cheile Bicazului expanded rapidly during the middle of the 20th century after the mountain road was improved, turning the gorge into an important stop between Transylvania and Moldavia. Beyond the roadside scenery, the region is known for hiking trails through pine forests, rock climbing routes, and viewpoints perched high along the mountain sides. What makes Cheile Bicazului particularly remarkable is the constant change in spatial scale. Some sections of the gorge narrow to only a few meters wide, making vehicles appear tiny between the towering stone walls. Along the route, visitors also encounter stalls selling smoked cheese, forest honey, and handcrafted wool products made by the Zecali community, adding a distinctive mountain culture to the experience. During autumn, the forest turned brilliant shades of gold and red, transforming the gorge into one of Romania's most scenic driving routes. Beyond the towering cliffs of the northeast, a more nostalgic atmosphere begins to emerge among the forested valleys of northern Romania. Mocanita Steam Train. The Mocanita is a historic steam railway located in the Maramureș region of northern Romania, running through the Vaza Valley deep within the Carpathian Mountains. The railway was originally built during the early 20th century to transport timber from remote forests to mountain settlements. Today, many steam locomotives, wooden carriages, and original tracks remain largely unchanged, making it one of Romania's most distinctive heritage tourism experiences. The train moves slowly alongside the Vasa River, crossing wooden bridges and passing through dense pine forests. The sound of the whistle echoing through the valley creates an atmosphere very different from modern railway journeys across Europe. During winter, snow blankets the mountains and forests, making the entire route feel like a scene from a classic Eastern European film. After this journey through the wilderness aboard a historic steam train, the mountain landscapes of Romania gradually open toward peaceful towns scattered along the slopes of the Carpathians. Vișcri. Among the gentle hills of Transylvania, Vișcri emerged during the 12th century around a fortified church built on a raised hill at the center of the village. Within this settlement pattern, the church served as the final defensive refuge, while homes and farmland expanded in layers across the lower slopes surrounding it. Beginning in the 13th century, defensive systems expanded through additional stone walls and watchtowers surrounding the village center, where below the fortifications, houses were built with thick lime-coated walls, steep roofs, and enclosed courtyards designed to withstand Carpathian winters and support livestock within the community. This remarkably unchanged organization led UNESCO to recognize Vișcri in the year 1999 as one of the best preserved Saxon villages in Romania. Homes, village roads, meadows, and agricultural land remain connected according to the same medieval farming model that once existed throughout much of Transylvania. Even after the 1990s, many small-scale farming and craft traditions continued within Vișcri instead of being fully replaced by tourism. As a result, the village still follows a rhythm of life that closely resembles the original settlement structure established centuries ago by the Saxon communities of Transylvania. Deeper within the Carpathians, the Saxon villages and lowland meadows gradually disappear, giving way to vast artificial lakes created among the mountain valleys of 20th century Romania. Our journey through Romania may be coming to an end, but the stories of geography, history, and culture remain woven into every destination we explored, from ancient cities and medieval fortresses to towering mountain landscapes. Each place is far more than a beautiful view. It is a story shaped over hundreds or even thousands of years, creating a depth and character that make this country truly unique. If you enjoyed this journey and found it helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you can join us on future adventures. In our next video, we'll explore even more remarkable destinations that remain largely unknown to most travelers, where nature and culture continue to reveal entirely new perspectives. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next journey.